The day was October 20th, 2016. Nintendo had just released a video showing off the Nintendo Switch, and for me, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. From that video's first 47 seconds, I knew that Nintendo had something special and I just had to get my hands on it. Eventually, I saved up enough to be able to get myself both Nintendo Switch and a copy of the game. I just could not hold my excitement anymore. I genuinely felt like a kid at Christmas. As soon as I set up my Switch, I opened the box, carefully got out the cartridge and slotted it right into my Switch and pressed the A button. This was it, the moment I had been looking forward to for around about a year. Time has passed since I first played it, and I recently decided to play it again as we are stuck at home. Who knew my lifestyle was called quarantine? And during my second playthrough, I decided that I wanted to do an in-depth review. This game is acclaimed by many, managing to become one of the highest reviewed games of all time on Metacritic with an impressive score of 97%. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. Ben, you're a bit late to the party, 3 years late for a matter of fact. And while that's true, I still want to express my own interpretation of the game, even if virtually all of us Nintendo fans already know what this game is. Therefore, if you are here listening to me ramble on in detail to why I like this game, then I massively appreciate it. Another thing that I would like to mention is that only 1% of people who watch my content are subscribed to my channel. So if you do enjoy my content and would like to join this 1% club, then please consider subscribing. But of course, you don't have to. You watching this video alone is already enough. In this review, I'm going to be discussing about multiple topics that I believe are important to talk about, although I will be excluding the DLC content from this review because I have not had the opportunity to play it yet, and I would like to be fair and express my opinion on parts of Breath of the Wild that I have played. Also, there is obviously going to be a massive spoiler warning to anyone who has not had the chance to play Breath of the Wild yet. To the people who are still happy to continue watching, let's start off with the most important part, the story. The story in this game is quite simplistic if you are playing it from point A to B. You start your adventure in the Shrine of Resurrection in a tiny isolated room. After waking up, you begin to approach to a nearby pedestal where you will collect the ancient Sheikah Slate, which is basically your bread and butter. Once you leave the Shrine of Resurrection, the main objective is for you to go to all 4 divine beasts that are scattered across Hyrule, and as soon as you begin to progress through the missions, you'll begin to gain more of an understanding about the events that happened prior to you waking up. This gets expanded upon further through memories that you can encounter as you travel through the beautiful world of Hyrule. While I feel these memories help keep the most dedicated players hooked, due to the fact they would like to improve their understanding of the story, I do feel like it's a bit of a nuisance for new players who are not that committed, because for me at the very least, I spent hours and hours going to location from location just to be able to track down and find them all. However, when you do take into consideration the memories, then these do really spice up the story. It is interesting to see some of the backstory with the 4 champions, Zelda and Link. These memories teach you the events of character building between Zelda and Link, the before and after of the events of the Great Calamity, and how Link was placed into the Shrine of Resurrection, which was due to the fact that he was in a near-death state after fighting Guardians that had been corrupted by Calamity Ganon. Zelda proceeds to save herself and Link from nearly being killed by a Guardian after discovering the power she has been training for. Once saved, Link collapses, which Zelda then instructs some nearby guards to take him to the shrine where he will rest for 100 years in preparation to fight Calamity Ganon again. Overall, the story is what makes the game great. The freedom for you to be able to create your own story, whether you are committed to going through all the main quests and discovering all the memories, or by just going to Hyrule Castle to fight Calamity Ganon with nothing but a stick. The thing that caught my eye and got all of my attention was the exploration. Knowing that everything you can see is explorable without having to worry about those dreaded loading times is quite simply amazing. The fact that you can travel from one corner of the world to the other and then enter a detailed house all in one load without having to waste 25 years of your life through loading screens is one of the things that makes this game truly feel immersive. However, having all of the world together like this does cause some disadvantages. Further away terrain just looks off, and witnessing objects as randomly appear in the world as you get close to them just ruins this feeling that you are truly submerged in Hyrule. Even though I have just literally criticised on this, you do need to take into consideration the hardware it is running on. The fact that Nintendo has managed to make all of Hyrule accessible is honestly a technical achievement, and they should all be proud of themselves for the wonderful job they have done. If you take the nitpicks out of the equation, then the game is truly stunning, as there has been extreme care in making sure everything is highly detailed that just makes you want to travel to every nook and cranny that the game has to offer. Another feature that caught my eye was the ability to be able to climb anything that you want. Want to climb that massive mountain? Sure. Want to go to Hyrule Castle with nothing but your mighty stick as you climb the walls while being targeted by guardians corrupted with the Great Calamity? You sure bet you can. This is what keeps me hooked in the game. Knowing that there is no boundaries and anything that you can see, you can access in multiple different ways. I've played this game now for a good length of time, over a number of playthroughs, and what still fascinates me is that I'm still discovering new things. For example, I accidentally stumbled upon Boomba Golf, and after playing a few rounds on it, I can definitely tell you that I am no Tiger Woods. But this is where I feel exploration strives. Me knowing that I haven't discovered or found everything just yet is okay. I'm okay with that because it just shows how efficient the developers were with concealing everything in this vast, large, beautiful interpretation of Hyrule, and in turn, encouraging us to do one of the best things in this game, to explore. You know, while the presentation of the game is excellent, so is the sounds in this game. Let us start off with the music. Each and every single track is amazing, and you can honestly just play the game for hours on end without getting bored of the soundtrack. Saying that, as I write this review, thinking of what to say, I'm actually currently listening to the official soundtrack of the game, and wow, they really did one heck of a job. It is very unique, and I feel it really brings the game up more through the fantastic pieces of music that they have produced. It is one of the few titles that is full of incredible but recognisable tracks. If you've played this game for even an hour, you will most likely immediately recognise it from this game, and possibly to where the track is played, as certain locations in this game have their own special song. That just shows how amazing the composers have done for producing music, because each piece brilliantly portrays what location you're in or what sort of situation you're in. Let us say you are just casually strolling around and exploring. The music is genuinely relaxing and peaceful. You feel comfortable, and in return it gives you a feeling of continuing your journey. Then all of a sudden you encounter an enemy. The music begins to spice up for an instrumental change, and that's when you know it is time to battle. That is when you begin to feel pumped and begin to start attacking each and every foe that tries to stand in your way. And after you've won the battle, the music begins to relax again, and that relaxation makes you feel more comfortable to start exploring. However, it is not just the game that makes this game good in terms of sound, it is also the ambience. Sorry for going all David Attenborough here, but you honestly feel a part of the world as you travel through Hyrule, as you hear a whole wide of different sounds from multiple creatures as you sprint through the many fields, and it really does make the world feel more alive. One of the things that I love about Breath of the Wild is the game design. After the first cutscene has finished playing out, you will get control of Link. During the first 10 minutes of gameplay alone, you'll be introduced to so many features and mechanics that are essential to you by just simply interacting with the world. After you've left the first room, you'll see 2 chests and wooden barrels and crates of different sizes. This teaches you that we can only interact with some objects in the world, while other objects are too heavy for us to be able to pick up. When you open the chests, you'll be given some simple clothing, which helps you introduce into the clothes rating system and how effective they are going to be for combat as you begin to progress further on with the story. The higher the rating, the less damage you will receive from a hit. Clothing is an important mechanic in the game due to the fact that certain types of clothing are more adaptable to different climates. Some clothes make you more adaptable in the cold, while others in the more warm areas of Hyrule. Finally, just before you leave the Shrine of Resurrection, you'll be forced to climb out of the chamber as the stairs have been destroyed. This is showing us how we're able to climb pretty much anything with no restriction aside from the endurance counter when that runs out. This little interactive tutorial is a brilliant piece of game design, as it has already been instrumental in teaching us the important features that will be beneficial to us as we continue to play on in the game. Saying that, this use of game design continues throughout the entire first area of the game, Great Plateau. Another thing you'll be taught while you explore is cooking. This is because you need to cook a particular dish for the mysterious old man who will give you a piece of clothing called the Worn Doublet as a reward. This is important because you get a cold resistance when you wear it, which helps you be able to travel into the more cold areas within the Great Plateau. The Sheikah Slate is one of the most essential tools that you have on your disposal throughout your entire playthrough. There is many upgradable mechanics you can find as you explore cold ruins. 4 of these are required to be able to leave the Great Plateau and are stored in their own shrines that are scattered across the land. These are Magnesis, Cryonis, Stasis, and Remote Bomb. Each of these are going to be handy in one shape or another, whether it's to discover new mysterious areas that contain treasures, or to help aid you in battle by using metallic objects near enemy encampments to your advantage. First things first, I do have to say that I love the creativity with combat. Weapon durability is something that I personally enjoyed while playing Breath of the Wild, because it forces you to think which weapon is going to be handy depending on the situation you're in, whether this is fighting a couple of goblins, or the one that gives you nightmares as you sleep, the Lionel. Another thing that I love to do is to slowly sneak up on enemies and do a special sneak strike. The environment can also be used to help aid you when it comes to surprise attacks, After you've met and talked to the old man in the Great Plateau, you can continue walking along the path towards the ruined remains of the Temple of Time, when all of a sudden you will see two boulders that are placed very conveniently on the edge of a steady slope, with two bokoblins just casually underneath them. By pushing the boulders off the cliff, you are able to easily get rid of them quite effectively. However, another way of getting rid of them is by using a nearby log that is just below the boulders. The fun and creative ways that developers have provided to us for combat is fun, interesting, and intrigues us to do much more. You might be wondering, I still have my bloodlust, but there is barely any enemies around. This has a quick fix through the blood moons. Basically every single monster you have slayed will return during a blood moon. Therefore, this means you will never be bored because you will always have a monster to slay. A good challenge for combat would be the tests of strengths that are within some of the many shrines in Hyrule. They are leveled from minor, modest and major, and are all difficult depending on your skill and the gear you have equipped on you. However, these aren't the only shrines that you will encounter in your adventure. You will also encounter two other main themes of these shrines, aside from combat. These are puzzle and freebies. Freebie shrines are usually a reward for completing a quest before being able to enter the shrine itself. These normally just contain a chest right in front of you, which normally gives you a number of goodies, whether this is a weapon or armour. Puzzle shrines, on the other hand, are more complex and can really make you think of how to complete it. The best example I can think of from the top of my head is where you have to use motion controls to be able to tilt a maze to get this ball out, and in return place it into a plate to be able to open the door to advance. I personally enjoy these shrines more, as they are really creative and really help test you in thinking of how to complete them. Now, once you have completed a shrine, you will have to examine a force field, which after you examine it will proceed to break into tiny pieces, which I do have to admit is visually amazing. You will then speak to the monk, who proceeds to give you a spirit orb, which is one of the two main collectibles in Breath of the Wild. You can use these spirit orbs when you pray at a goddess statue that is scattered across Hyrule, and when you do pray you will have the option to spend 4 of these spirit orbs to either increase your heart by 1 or increase your endurance, which enables you to run and climb for longer periods of time. The other main collectible that you can discover are Korok seeds. Before being able to collect them, you first need to meet Hetsu, where you'll get informed about some missing maracas, which have been taken from a nearby group of bokoblins. As soon as you get the maracas back, you'll then be told that if you have any Korok seeds on you, you can use them to help increase inventory slots with your weapons, bows, or shields. Now, after giving this game full of love and praise throughout this review, I do have to talk about one of the major disappointments that I do have with Breath of the Wild, and it is the ending. Summed up, it is like Marmite. You either love it or you hate it, and for me, I am somewhere in the middle. I have to admit that the initial cutscene is amazing if you have managed to take back all 4 divine beasts from the calamity corrupting them. Watching all the champions begin their attack is honestly amazing. When I was watching this cutscene playing out during my first playthrough, it was jaw-dropping. Witnessing everything that was happening at once and just seeing them attack Hyrule Castle was pretty badass. After this, it's your turn to get right in there with the action, and boy did I feel mixed about this. The first stage of the boss fight is honestly amazing because you need to be conscious of your surroundings. You're confined in quite a reasonably small area, battling a spider-looking beast that is known as Calamity Ganon. I genuinely had an enjoyable time being able to learn all the techniques that can help aid you in the fight and increase your chances of being able to beat him. I just love having to dodge all the stuff that Calamity Ganon tries to bring onto you, and it really helps test your knowledge on your combat to be adaptable on all the different moves that Ganon will put you through. This is why I think it's important to attempt to go to all the divine beasts and attempt to fight all the Ganons within, because each and every single one of them can help teach you techniques that are going to be beneficial in learning for this final encounter. But this is where the positives turn into negatives though. When you've finished the first phase of Calamity Ganon, you will then be teleported to a field near Hyrule Castle to begin the attack on the second and final phase of Ganon, Dark Beast Ganon. I feel like this should have been the first stage because you no longer feel restricted to the confined space of being in a chamber in Hyrule Castle, but you are now in an open environment in the middle of a field. You do not have to worry about Dark Beast Ganon's attack, and in return the whole battle seems rushed. Your objective in the second stage is basically using this infinite bow that Zelda provides to you and hit beams of light that are eroding out of Ganon. And that's it. That is it pretty much. The only thing I can give praise for in this last phase of Ganon's battle is the very ending when you have to shoot up in the air and shoot Ganon in the eye to get rid of his last bit of health. I actually feel that these phases should have actually been swapped. Start off in the more open environment and make the player get comfortable, and then test their skills on the final phase in a small cramped environment that makes you keep an eye on your limited surroundings. I know it wasn't rushed, of course it wasn't rushed, it's Nintendo, but this ending honestly feels it, and it just feels so late minute, just because of how simple this second phase is, and that's just disappointing. Overall, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild was the perfect option to represent Nintendo in their new era as a company. I feel like they chose the right title to release alongside with the Switch, because this game fits for the demographic Nintendo is now trying to aim for, teenagers and adults. Everything is jam-packed in this tiny cartridge, and it honestly deserves all the praise and love that it got on its release. And in my honest opinion, this game definitely deserves that 97% that it has on Metacritic. It has mastered everything: exploration, combat, visuals, sound, you name it, it has mastered it. If you have a Nintendo Switch, you really need to consider getting this absolute masterpiece of a title, because it is definitely up there as one of the best games I've ever played. And honestly, this has been the most easiest decision when it comes to me giving a game a score out of 10. For me, it's a very easy 10 rupees out of 10. Finally, I genuinely feel that Breath of the Wild was the first giant leap pushed Nintendo in the right direction. And my god, they aced it perfectly, because this game, it truly is a breath of fresh air.